Hi, I'm 31st, and this is the GL502VS. I've had this notebook for a few months now, so I figured might as well do a review. It's got 16GB of RAM, a 256GB NVMe PCIe SSD, a 1TB hard drive, a GTX 1070, and a Core i7 6700 HQ. First, let's talk about this build. So the top lid is a brushed black aluminum with a bright orange ROG logo, which is just a bit off center. And it's got a bit of flex to it too. The laptop weighs about 5.5 pounds and is about 1.2 inches thick. So thin. Which means you can still carry it around in a backpack with relative ease. It's not too heavy, and it's a little on the thicker side, but for what you're getting, it's fine. The rest of it is ABS plastic. It has a relatively sturdy feel to it. It's not aluminum, so it's no MacBook Pro and it's no razor blade, but it doesn't feel like it's going to be falling apart. But it's plastic, so just be aware of that. And for some reason, these stupid little black stickers keep poking out of the chassis. It's annoying, but you can just pull the stickers out and you're good. There's a plethora of ports, too, for all your plugging and porting needs. On the left side, there's a USB 3.1 Type-C, not Thunderbolt 3, a USB 3, mini DisplayPort 1.4, and HDMI 2.0, which can output 4K at 60Hz. There's a Gigabit Ethernet and a power jack. On the right side, there's a 3.5mm combo microphone headphone jack, 2 USB 3s, and a Kensington lock port. When you open up the laptop, the first thing you're going to notice is the display. It's a matte 60Hz 1080p GSYNC enabled panel. Out of the box, the blacks were really crushed down, making it nearly impossible to see the details in a dark scene, but some calibration fixed that. There's a few saturation issues here and there, like some parts of the screen are bluer than others, but you won't really see it unless you're looking at a completely white screen. After the calibration, you don't really notice it as much, but it handles skin tones really oddly. Skin tones will seem more yellow and golden than what's natural, but you'll get used to it. You only really notice it when you're comparing it to a perfect screen or like a TV that's right next to it. But other than that, it's a solid display. Right above it is the webcam, and it works, so what else do you need to know? Going down a bit, you'll see an ASUS logo and then the keyboard. There's a slight amount of flex to the keyboard, but not so much that you'll notice it during everyday typing. The keyboard is solid and has a key travel of 1.6mm. It feels a little mushy, and the arrow keys make the shift key a little smaller, but that's alright. And the right arrow key is spaced just a few millimeters further than the rest of the keys too, which takes just a little bit of getting used to, and because of the shapes of the keys, it's difficult to distinguish if you're using the arrow keys or if you're just typing on the number pad. The bright orange WASD keys were a bit distracting at first, because do I really need them to be bright orange to find them? If you love it, they're there. They're not really for me. They were a bit distracting at first too. I've gotten used to them, and the red-orange glow from the keyboard backlight is great. But sometimes I feel my hand just creeping over there, just trying to cover the keys or to get ready for some gaming, even though that's not what's going to happen. There's something about the shade and the glow of the orange in the dark though. It almost feels like a fireplace. There's an ROG button and another ROG logo just to the right, so you know exactly which brand it is you're using. A few people who have seen this laptop thought the logos were all stickers, but they're not. They're painted on. They look a little cheap, but it's not like you're going to be staring at the logos while you're using a computer anyway. Right underneath the keyboard are all these stickers. These stickers tell everyone around you that you're better than them. You got a Core i7, NVIDIA GeForce, and you care about the environment. What else is there? Moving on to the right of the stickers though, is the trackpad. Now the trackpad is alright, it's smooth, it's accurate, and it uses Windows Precision drivers, but it occasionally stutters and just kind of freezes up. It hasn't been doing it recently because maybe I've just changed the way I've been using the trackpad, but you might have a few issues with it out of the box. It's kind of just fixed itself. Oh, the clicking is also really loud. It's almost like a hammer. It's just loud. And it picks up a lot of grease too. But you can kind of just wipe it off with a wet paper towel. And as a gaming machine, you're probably just going to be using a mouse for the most part anyway. To the left and the right of the keyboard and the trackpad though are the speakers. They're upwards facing, which is You know, it's pretty nice, and they're relatively loud, but can be covered pretty easily. They lack adequate bass. That's kind of expected on most laptop speakers. Oh, and they're bright orange too, just like everything else. Enough of the externals though, let's dive into why you're really here. The GTX 1070. Somehow, someway, ASUS and Nvidia have been able to stuff almost the desktop version of the 1070 into this thing. It isn't exactly the same, since there are 2048 CUDA cores compared to the 1920 in the desktop variant, and it has a slightly lower clock speed at 1442 MHz compared to the 1506 in the fully fledged model, but this thing is a beast. Battlefield 1 hovers at around 70 to 80 frames per second, ultra and 1080p, so you can probably bump up the resolution scaling in there. Grand Theft Auto 5 averages at around 60, but can dip below when everything runs maxed out. Just bump the settings down a little bit and maybe turn on GSYNC and everything's fine. Overwatch though? Overwatch is barbecue chicken. It stays at a constantly high FPS and never dips below 60. So yeah, gaming is pretty awesome on this thing. The thermals are relatively cool. The max GPU temperature I saw was 89 degrees Celsius with G-Sync off. It's kinda high, but it happened when there was a wall right behind the computer stagnating airflow and the room was already warm to begin with. With G-Sync enabled, the GPU was kept somewhere between 75 and 84 degrees Celsius. Not burning hot, but still good enough to keep your hands warm in the winter. Fans are audible, but they don't sound like a jet is about to take off. Headphones are recommended, but they're not always needed. With all that GPU and GSYNC goodness though, leaves a little bit to be desired in the battery life department. The battery life hovers right around 3 hours of normal usage, which means Chrome, YouTube, light coding, typing in Google Docs. You can probably squeeze out a little more if you use Microsoft Edge, which has been shown to increase battery life, but come on, it's Edge, really. But anyway, the battery life doesn't get anywhere near the battery life of the MacBooks or something like the XPS 15 or most Ultrabooks for that matter. I mean, at least this thing has a battery, and it's a sacrifice most gamers are willing to make. It's a sacrifice I was willing to make. Just be ready to carry this brick of a charger around. Literally, it's a brick. I wouldn't be surprised if someone found a way to build a house out of all these things. But it's a weird brick. The charger is rated for 180 watts, but on load the laptop needs about 183, so you'll notice your battery drain while doing heavy gaming, even if you're plugged in. It's not too big of an issue unless you intend on gaming for about 24 hours straight, but it's something to keep note of. It hasn't affected me yet, but usage varies, so be prepared. Overall, the ASUS Strix GL502VS is a really long name, but a great laptop for the price. At $1699, it's one of the only somewhat portable machines someone can find for under $2,000 that carries the GTX 1070. There are alternatives like the lighter and less powerful Razer Blade or the beefier and sturdier Alienware 15, but neither combine the low price and high specs that make this machine so great. Micro Center occasionally has deals on this thing too. It's not perfect, but if you're willing to make a few compromises here and there for a GTX 1070 powered laptop at that price, you can't go wrong with the ASUS GL502VS.